Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Los Angeles City Board of Good morning again, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Los Angeles City Board of Public Works. I hope everybody is as excited about it being Friday as I am. And,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's a good thing.
Yes.
And looking forward to getting some good work done. So, good morning, Dr. Campos. Do we have quorum?
Good morning, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Establishing roll call and quorum for today, we have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. Mr. President, you do have a quorum at this time. Mr. President, at this time, we also have two members of the general public that are here for general public comment. We also have one member from the general public that is here on item number 2, and 2 members for item number 7. So again, 2 for general public comment, 1 for item 2, and 2 for item 7. In addition to that, we did receive a Google comment form on for general public comment and also on item number 7. Those comments have been distributed to all commissioners this morning via email, and you should have those in your in basket for your review. Mr. President, also there is no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section, and a special request to take item 2 and 7 either together or sequentially, since those items are nearly or closely related to each other.
Take 2 and 7. There's a request to take 2 and 7 together.
Either together or sequentially. 2 then 7.
I got it. Okay, I'm fine with that. Why don't we? What I'm going to do then is I'm going to hold on to until the end. That way we can let everyone else get through these other items. Okay, let's hear. Thank you, Dr. Campos, and good morning, everybody. Why don't we go right to general public comment, Dr. Campos?
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. We have 2 members of the general public that are joining us for general public comment. We'll go ahead and start with the first caller ending in 682, caller ending in 682. If you can please press *6. Please state your name. You'll have 2 minutes to speak under general public comment. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council and Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community. Basically, we're preparing for a presentation tomorrow at the Neighborhood Congress for 2021. And one of the things that came up was open or vacant land and paper streets. Everybody gets confused on paper streets, paper sewers, paper this, paper easements. One of the issues that we've come up with is, hey, we're missing out on a lot of money because there are over 1,000 parcels in 90032 El Sereno, and they have no improvements at all. Paper streets, paper sewer easements, paper everything. And the difference in valuation between a land value of $360,000 if it's served versus $642 if it is as is right now. So we seem to be missing out on a lot of money for the city from the county. There's also a matter that Elephant Hill, which is one of our large areas that was vacant, became part of the city because I was present when the city engineer came in and asked for discretionary approval of money to build the infrastructure that is plotted on Elephant Hill. And that required CEQA. So when are we going to get the improvements on the rest of Elephant Hill and the other 500, 600 vacant lots within the city of LA that are planted? They have easements, they have all sorts of things. I will. And so when are we going to get some money for infrastructure on Elephant Hill and El Sereno? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We'll move on to the next caller. Caller ending in 631. Caller ending in 631. Please unmute your microphone by pressing *6. You will have 2 minutes to speak under general public comment. Please go ahead.
This is Joanne D'Antonio from CFAC. This maybe I should have done under item 7, but I'm going to do it now. Private property trees are being removed at an alarming rate, and dare I say, we are asleep at the wheel here. Council File 20-0720 passed in August 2020 as a motion to preserve significant trees of biological value. City Council has been waiting over a year for a report so we can save large private property trees. Pasadena has a very simple ordinance that could easily be adapted here to regulate and preserve private property trees. That could be the recommendation in the report. We could stop this activity if the report got done. There is will at City Council to pass this. Are we waiting on the City Forest Officer to get around to it? We can't be waiting for the Urban Forestry Management Plan because there is nothing about existing tree preservation in this presentation. Significant trees perform ecosystem services now. Trees removed by property owners. Now, not 20 years from now. I am creating a slideshow of significant private property trees removed by private property owners for no apparent reason. 30 have been removed just in the yards surrounding my house in the San Fernando Valley with no change in the property owner or additional construction. When I question property owners about their trees, they say they are not protected, so it is their right to remove them. End of discussion. 90% of our canopy is on private property. The canopy declines every day. We don't see the urgency to preserve shade. The first day of fall was a U.S. Weather Service heat warning day directing people not to go out. Our future in this city is a lot of days inside with the air conditioner cranked to overcome heat island effect. What can you do to help get this report on this City Council file to City Council so we can start protecting private property trees? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio. Mr. President, that clears the queue for general public comment. We will go ahead and close out this session.
Okay, general public general public comment is closed officially, and we will move into our agenda. First off, we'll take the minutes from Friday, September 3, 2021. I'll motion to move those forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any concerns, Calosa, Villegas, or Garcia? All right, hearing none, the minutes from Friday, September 3, 2021 are adopted and approved forthwith. That brings us to item number 1 on the agenda. This is a memorandum of agreement, Riviera Country Club, Santa Monica Canyon Channel Stormwater Best Management Practices Project. Recommending the board, 1, approve and forward this report with its transmittal to the mayor and city council to A, authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works and the director of the Bureau of Sanitation or designee to execute a proposed memorandum of agreement between the City of Los Angeles and the Riviera Country Club for the Santa Monica Canyon Channel Stormwater Capture Best Management Practices Project at Riviera Country Club Golf Facility. B, authorize the controller upon instructions from the director of the Bureau of Sanitation to create and appropriate a new account titled Riviera Country Club Golf Facility BMP within the Stormwater Pollution Abatement Fund number 511 in the amount of $3,750,000 to pay for project expenditures after receiving funds from the Riviera Country Club and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and 2, approve and authorize the Bureau of Sanitation's budget of $3,750,000 for expenditures related to the activities of this project. A contingency of up to 10%, $375,000, will be provided upon determination that the final cost exceeds the initial estimate. Mr. Tam, are you here on this item?
Yes, thank you very much. It's a long read on this. Good morning, President Good, Board Commissioner, Board EO, City Attorney, and Department Representative. My name is Wayne Tam from Bureau of Sanitation, and I'm here to seek your consideration for an memorandum agreement between LA Sanitation, LA Department of Water and Power, and the Riviera Country Club for funding at the Santa Monica stormwater capture project for reuse. This agreement is needed in order to attain the needed funding from the Riviera Country Club. Sometimes we refer to as RCC, to allow the project to move forward. Just a little background on the project. The project will capture water from the San Monica Canyon, which is basically runs right through the Riviera Country Club. And so basically since there's a huge channel with lots of water coming down, and that gets discharged out into San Monica Bay, the idea is to capture that water, divert it, capture the water, treat it, and use it at the golf course and the River Country Club. A 350,000 gallon storage tank has already been constructed by the Riviera Country Club, and they're waiting for Bill to have water and be treated at the site. This project is located in CD 11. As I mentioned, the project is 100% funded by the Riviera Country Club and LA Water and Power. They basically are splitting the costs between the two projects, and this agreement outlines when that funding is available to us and how we capture that money. And the good thing also with this project, we negotiate with the Riviera Country Club. They're willing to provide the 100% of the front funding ahead of time for us, so that we can get the money to start the project. As you know, anytime we do a project, we need to have money in the bank first before we could do anything. So they're willing to front fund the entire amount, and then they will get a reimbursement back from Water and Power on the other half. And so the current budget is $3,750,000. As mentioned, there's 10% contingency if we need it, which is about $375,000. So after the project's completed, LA Sanitation will be responsible for O&M for the diversion part by the canyon, whereas the Riviera Country Club will be responsible for O&M for the tank and treatment system. And so it's a win-win for us in the city, because it will basically rely on less potable water for reuse. As you know, golf course uses millions of gallons of water. And so this is a good time to go to do a lot of these type of, I would say, public-private partnership type of project, where you have willing private entity willing to contribute to receive water that helps us in the city. So approval of this agreement will allow us to move forward with the needed funds to start this project. So open to any questions you have.
Thank you, Wing. Vice President Garcia, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, thank you, President Good, and good morning to everyone. Mr. Wing, thank you for your report. I have a couple of questions, and I'll be brief so I can let my colleagues also ask their questions. But one, is this type of partnership I just want to, what I'm trying to get at is, like, do we do these type of partnerships commonly, or is this very different and special?
We actually have a number of partnerships in other areas with different entities. This is probably one of the first one with a private entity. We have a number of projects with other outside department, other right. Public agency, but yeah, privately is one of those few and rare that comes up, because we have to have a private entity that was willing to participate.
Right. So let me ask the question: did they approach us for this project, or did we approach them?
It's kind of mutual, because
okay.
Yeah, because it's one of those projects we identify early on in as part of our what we call the enhanced management plan, to be able to take water, reuse it, and also help us with water quality. But we have to find willing partners. So when we found out that this kind of go through the golf course, it's kind of the River Country Club is willing to do something, we're willing to do something, then we took a while to basically negotiate something. But yes, it's a kind of mutual thing.
And so this was because I think you said the Santa Monica, and I thought I wrote it down, flow runs right through their country club, right?
Yeah, the San Monica Canyon, there's a big giant channel that discharges water from the entire Santa Monica mountains out into Santa Monica Bay.
And that's what prompted like the sanitation department to kind of move forward or build this partnership. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to learn the onset of this, and one of the questions were like, how did we pick this one? But I could see why now if the Santa Monica Canyon Channel runs right through it, so it was okay. Couple more questions. Do you know? I know that they're going to recycle the water, and I know there's multiple uses of waters in a golf course. But what would be their primary usage for this water? Do you know?
Mainly, their primary use is going to be for the golf course, with exception of the greens themselves. Because my understanding, the way golf course operates is that the greens needs a little bit. They have to watch out what kind of water they use because it's very sensitive to the quality of water. So majority water will be all around the entire golf course, and if they could clean it to such a level where it's clean enough for the greens themselves, they will also consider using that.
Got it. And then, and so I imagine that the Rivera Country Club has specialists that will be able to treat the water.
Yeah, they're putting in as part of this project. We're putting in the treatment system. We filter it and then we run what we call ultraviolet UV, disinfect and kill any bacteria and also any kind of solids or suspended solid. So part of this project is to put in those treatment system. And once that's done, we will work with the River Country Club for them to operate it. Okay.
And the diversion part that we would be continuing to do, is that part of what the master plan was already had in place? So the money that we had allocated for this type of work has been already allocated also for this diversion, because there's going to be extra work for us now, right? Once we do this, or additional work, right?
Well, in terms of the project, it's going to be. You're right. It's additional work, but in terms of funding part, it's the two partners, LEDWP and River Country Club, will fund the project. So, but for O&M wise, yes, we will need to deal with the diversion in the channel as an O&M function that we will do. Yes.
Okay. So the front cost of the actual project is paid for by the partnership of DWP and Rivera Club, but the maintenance or the after work is going to be by us, right? Sanitation?
Right. Only for the diversion part of it in the channel.
Got it. Okay.
So,
okay, I think I'm kind of clear.
Sorry about that.
No, you did good. Don't worry.
The good thing is that the River Country Club is willing to operate, maintain the tank and treatment system, so we don't have to deal with that. So kind of split. We operate our part, they operate their part. So.
Okay, I just was trying to what I was trying to go with that was, is it going to cost us more now, or are we going to add additional work / work orders to our load by doing this project? So in the long run, will we be the ones paying for this in the long run? But it sounds like it's already part of the master plan, and this is just, it's also better that they're front. In a way, it's better that they're front-funding the first part of the project, and we just kind of do the second part, which is maintaining and okay, got it.
Correct. And which is actually lesser maintenance for us, because they're doing the other half maintenance.
I see. Got it. Perfect. Okay, I think I'm clear on this. Thank you, Mr. Tam, for answering all those questions, and that's it for me, President Good.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner or President Pro Tem Davis.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tam, in terms of this project, this private-public partnership, what is the biggest advantage of our engagement in this for the sanitation department particularly and the city of Los Angeles in general? What is our best benefit from our relationship in this problem?
There's a number of benefits. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, one of the big benefits, because we're the holder of the MPDS permit with TMDL with water quality requirement, by taking this water from the channel, it will actually help us meet the requirement for water quality compliance with TMDLs that discharges directly into the Samanga Bay. So this water will go directly into Samanga Bay. If we take it off, then it will help us in terms of meeting any compliance. Second, it will also help Water and Power, because now they don't have to provide potable water to Riviera Country Club in terms of and that would leave more potable water for other uses that we need for consumption. Because golf course takes millions of gallons of water, fresh water, which we don't necessarily have to use fresh water for. And so that will help Santa Monica. And the third thing is that it will help Riviera Country Club, because from my perspective, they will end up paying less cost for water also, because it always comes down to money, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so because of this treatment water, they don't have to pay the high rate for potable fresh water.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, there's other benefit too, environment and all that other stuff. I'm just giving you the actual number.
So it's a win-win for all of the stakeholders involved.
Correct.
In this particular arrangement.
Correct.
How many volumes of water will we be able to capture from this relationship?
Okay. We're doing once we move forward to start doing the pre-design, we will actually have more in terms of better numbers. But right now, since there's already a 350 gallon storage tank on site at the country club, and if we, let's say, fill that up, 10 times a year for them to use, that would be, quite a bit of water. 3 million gallons or more of water a year that we could save. I mean, it depends on how much they use, and when we do the actual pre-design, we're going to figure out in terms of that more detail, so that we could size up our facility to allow more water into the tank. But that, that's just a start. You could 3 million could be even more.
Mm-hmm. As we look at the implementation of the project, what is the time period in which we anticipate that we can get started to begin the work on the relationship that we have put together in the contracts?
Once we go through the process and get this agreement approved and get the funding allocated to us, I'm anticipated, say this agreement, let's say it goes through the process with approval and all that, and then once we receive the funding, I anticipate probably 6 to 9 months we will start.
I see. And what is the anticipated duration of the project?
I anticipate this project, it's anywhere from 2 to 3 years to complete.
I see.
Just because in this area, we have to get a number of permits, and one of them may have to get like a fish and game, the state fish and game permit, because if we divert flow from the Salmon Canyon, there may be some impacts where they would want us to basically mitigate some of that. But that's something we're anticipating in terms of duration.
Okay. Now, in terms of the funding for the project, if it's a 2 to 3 year project, are the dollars being requested today adequate for the duration of the project for the 2 to 3 years that we anticipate?
We did. We actually factored that in there with some that 3.75 million. We actually factored that in there because one of the more expensive items to put in is the storage tank, which has already been done. So the only thing we're doing is basically diverting
Who
channel.
put the storage tank in there?
The River Country Club.
Okay.
They already did that. They paid for it. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And so we don't anticipate having to come back for further expenditure requests for this project. We think that what we're presenting here today is going to be enough budget for the next 2-3 years to be able to implement this project.
That is correct. Our current estimate is that the budget is adequate, but like you mentioned, we put in a contingency of 10%, which is $375,000, just in case when we go through our final estimate, that if there's any other costs associated with it, we at least have that extra money available.
Okay, so that this project will then obviously help us be in compliance with some of our environmental goals as it relates to this water. Are there any other similar situations or golf courses, if you will, that might have the potential for us to do the same thing in the future in those other areas other than just Riverside Country Club or Riviera Country Club? Are there other?
Right. We actually implemented some projects already, as Commissioner President Good knows. Our Pinmar project at a Pinmar golf course that's also out by in the West LA area. We actually capture water from a large area, put it in a tank.
Is it a country club? It's
a city golf course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a city.
And
golf
where's
course.
it? What's the name of it again?
It's a Pinmar golf course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Every opportunity we get, we try to do that. We also implement a number of projects out in the valley in number of parks. There's 9 parks, and there's other parks that we are also doing. MacArthur Park, other parks that we actually, but they're all city parks.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's why this is kind of unique that.
So, but we don't have any other potential for private-public partnerships for other areas around the city from which we can do the same thing in the future. There are none that are situated in the similar way that this one is at Riviera.
Correct.
This is the only unique one that we are aware of at this moment.
At this this time, there are other potential ones. We looked at other one before that was adjacent to LA River. I forget what that golf course is, but unfortunately, the owner was not cooperative and basically sold that golf course.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Colosa.
Great. Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Tam. And nice to see you as always. I have a few questions for you, as you, I'm sure, have anticipated. If you can explain to me a little bit more about LACN's specific role here. I know you outlined on page 2 that LACN would be the project manager. Can you explain how you got to that position and who else is involved?
So far, this is in terms of our discussion with Water and Power and with River Country Club. We worked out such a way that we attained the funding, and then we would do some initial design work and see what's the best course of action in terms of if you're talking about who will be implementing or how we're going to be able to construct some of this project. Right now, we're because it's a little bit time frame way. I want to firm up the cost for this particular project and get the money into the bank, and then we could start working on best way to implement this project to meet the deadline we need. But at least we are able to do the design work because we kind of understand what the project's needed. But we need to work on in terms of, like I said, how to best way to implement this down the line.
Okay, so you guys would prepare all the bid documents, is what it says here.
Correct.
And so curious, like what list are you, and also to clarify, because I know, I appreciate Dr. Davis's questions, but we're actually not approving the budget today, right? We're approving an MOU.
Well, it is. We're requesting the MOU, also the budget too.
So this, what we're voting on is an MOU and a budget authority?
Correct.
I just want to be very clear, because I think the language that's used in the top line is that this is an MOU.
Correct.
Okay, so that's definitely a clarification that I think we need to make, because my reading of it is that this was just an MOU. And I know typically you all, typically how we've seen items come before the board is that they're usually separate things, right? Like a memorandum of understanding and then like the budget authority are two different items. They're not combined in one.
Well, because this particular item, they're all kind of linked together. You approve the MOA, but if the budget is not what you approved, then we can't get the MOA, because there's not. Then the River Country Club won't be able to provide us that funding. You see the difference?
Yeah, but I've also seen it where we've had a standalone MOU or MOA, and then the actual budget authority comes after. So this is where maybe the clarification on the sequencing. I don't know if I see Mr. Jordan's busy, but I will ask him in a second.
Commissioner, did you have a question?
I did. Mr. Jordan, can you clarify in terms of the sequencing? So Mr. Tam said that this is, in addition to it being an MOU, that this is also approving the budget. From my understanding of past items, typically these are two separate items, and it's not made clear to me here that, I know there's that second item now that I see, but I guess in the top line that says we're just approving an MOU, but it's buried in the recommendations, the budget here.
Well, Commissioner, I'm looking at the report. First of all, my colleague Adina was more actively involved in this, and as indicated in the report, concurs with the recommendations here. But it looks to me like putting aside whatever we call it, there's a contract that's part of this.
Okay.
I think that contract is called Memorandum of Agreement. It doesn't matter what we call it, it's a contract.
Okay.
And you're being asked, it's before you, it's part of the report, and you're being asked to approve it and authorize the president of the board and the director and general manager of LA Sanitation to sign it. And then it'll be fully executed. Vieira Country Club will sign it. Looks like Department of Water and Power is also on there. I'm just scrolling through the agreement right now.
Yeah, no,
I guess I'm not sure what your question is.
No, thank you for clarifying. I understand what we're approving here. I think the confusion is just coming from past items that I'm thinking of how they're usually not combined into the same thing. They're usually separate items. But I can go on to the rest of my questions here.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you, and I know you mentioned you're obviously working with DWP, the Country Club. Can you explain whether or not BOE is involved in this project? Because I know that the LA Sand project manager description is outlined, and the work that you will be doing there, that typically that's something that I know, in partnership with BOE, since you all work really closely, that's something that, is a partnership that we see. And I know that we have an outlined process internally from our former deputy mayor about the process that would need to take place before sanitation designates itself as a project manager.
No, I mean, definitely, Bureau Engineering will be involved. That's what I mentioned earlier. Until we get the funding, we don't have much to do. We can't go forward with anything. And once we get the money, we will outline the different steps, as you mentioned from the deputy mayor mentioned before in her memo. We will work with that and see how we could figure out in terms of best way to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I would like a little bit more specificity because, you know, I don't want us to approve a very large contract as Mr. Jordan outlined here without understanding those specifics. Because I'm looking at the memo now, and one of the things that our internal process outlines is that sanitation needs to submit a memorandum to the city engineer outlining whether or not it meets the criteria in the memo about whether or not LA San would be the project manager or whether it be the Bureau of Engineering. Have you or has LA Sanitation followed that process?
Well, this is approving an agreement to attain funding, okay? And right now, a lot of that is still up in discussion. There's a number of projects like this. This is not the only project. There's other projects that's in the works that's actually being discussed between our new director and also city engineer, and I'm assuming you guys are involved in it in terms of what's the best way forward with number of projects. It could be a number of scenarios in terms of how we deal with project. It could be projects where we have engineering does the complete design, construction, everything, and it could be a hybrid approach where sanitation does the design, engineering does the construction, or it could be an approach where sanitation does a complete project from design construction. So those are being discussed in terms of, it could be a number of those hybrid discussion right now, and that's being worked on separately with the department heads, and right now we're just looking at making sure we get the funding.
Right, but I guess the reason why I'm asking specific is because you all wrote it specifically in the board report, right? Like you outlined specifically LA Sanitation's role, and that is something that you know, that was outlined specifically in the memo for a reason, because this is something that we want to make sure that our team and that we work on this together as a department. So I know there's so many other pieces moving. Obviously, I don't have time right now to confirm with, you know, BOE and our city engineer and of course, Director Romero, just to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's at this point. But I personally would feel more comfortable with this by checking with them first. So I would actually request a continuance of at least a week or two, just so I can clarify on my end and understand the specifics and the details, which is what I'm interested in, because the report in itself is very specific and detailed about roles and responsibilities that I'm not quite understanding right now.
Well,
and that wasn't a question, Mr. Tam. With all due respect, that's a request for me to the board.
That's fine. I'm just trying to explain. These agreements are typical of what we go through in terms of getting the funding. It's typically not at the time where we define each department's role. That's a separate discussion. Most agreement we into with outside agency, it could be with MRCA, it could be with other agency. It outlines roles in terms of be able to get the money in first, and then we set up different accounts. Once accounts are set up, then we could figure out in terms of how best way to move projects. But I'm just letting you know this is how typical agreement goes. At this level, we don't go into detail, you know, down to who does what at this time. Other than we're city's responsible for this, and because Warren Power is kind of unique, we have to outline exactly what Warren Power is going to do, because they're not really part of council control. So that's how we typically do it.
Let me interject real quick, Mr. Tam. I hear that, and forgive me, Commissioner Close, I'm not taking away your time. I will come back. I want to clarify based on something you just said. When I'm looking at page 2, middle of the page, it's pretty explicit. LA San, as project manager, is responsible for the project's implementation, in accordance with the agreement, LA Sand shall, and it's very explicit in terms of design, in terms of all of it. And I'm just curious, does the agreement, in the agreement itself, to refer to this, and we have two different city agencies, so if it's specific to one, then it would be to the other, or does it say the city will generate design plans, et cetera?
Well,
The MOA is specific to that role. I just want to be really crystal clear here.
which is correct. This is how we actually typically do it in agreement, because it is that explicit to say basically sanitation is the owner of this facility. We're the ones that are responsible for all this. There's only one entity that's responsible for all this for this project. If let's say we have other departments to do other work, design, construct, whatever it is, we will work with those departments to do that. But it's still ultimately sanitation's responsibility, because that's how a lot of these agreements go through when we work with outside agencies. They don't want to have to go through and say, "Oh, sanitation, you're not responsible. We'll go to this other guy," and so it's kind of cumbersome. So there's always one entity that's responsible for this work, and typically that's what happened, because sanitation is the owner of all this facility, and we're the program manager for all these type of stormwater type of project. And if we go the route of having engineering design, they're like any other design. They're like any designers. We basically, I hate to say this, but they're like a consultant to us. We hire them to do certain work for us as a designer. So, but sanitation is ultimately responsible.
And Mr. Tam, I appreciate what you're saying. You work with so many of our bureaus internally on so many projects. And, if this was a joint board report, if it was signed by both general managers, or if they were included in the process, I would feel much better about understanding what we're saying. But we do have, a process in place for how to get to this place that you're talking about. You've named everybody else involved, all the other partners, DWP, the country club. And so the omission of a key partner in this, when we know that you all work together, I would just personally like a little bit more time to look into this. I have no problems with the project. I'm looking at the process just in which we got here, because we know that there's other coordination challenges that we're trying to work through. So I would, still like to move forward with my recommendation for a continuance of 2 to 3 weeks on this item. But thank you for your time on this and for all your work.
So, hold on the request. I'm inclined to. Hold on one second, Ted. I just want to confirm with Commissioner Villegas. Do you have any questions at this point, Commissioner Villegas?
Not about process. I had questions about the country club, and those can be taken up when this item and when we are indeed going to vote on it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Jordan?
Thank you, President Good. President Good, you asked a question about the contract itself, in terms of LA sanitation's responsibilities. So there's a language in the report that Commissioner Rosa was talking about. That is the same as what's in the actual agreement itself. So I just wasn't sure if that was sufficiently answered. But that language that's in the order that describes Bureau of Sanitation's role, essentially during the construction phase, that's also in the MOU. The MOU sets forth the set of responsibilities for sanitation, for LADWP, and for Riviera. So that's part of the responsibilities of LA. So just trying to answer your question.
Thank
I
you.
mean, obviously, LA Sanitation, will also be responsible for operation and maintenance of things. Just typical for all of the facilities. I think Commissioner Closer was getting at, well, we should be building the facilities. Yes, you are not to maintain it, but building something is different than operating something. That seems to be the system.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jordan. I want to just, on Commissioner Close's first point, I would echo I mean, call me simple, but I do know that I typically what we've seen is MOUs. I know we've had one with the LA County Flood Control District with a number of different entities around with rec parks around operations and maintenance, period. Not a conjoined MOA that is in effect becomes almost a notice to proceed along with a subsequent O&M. And that may be fine paradigmatically, but I would certainly agree with Commissioner Close's observation that is distinct. I will tell you that in my first reading, and I've read the report twice, in my first reading, I also was like, oh, this is an O&M MOA. So just for future reference, I do think in the top line, it is important that it be crystal clear what's in this. I mean, obviously, it's meant to be a summary line, but I find, and I don't assume any ill intent on it or any intention. I just think, but I do think it's a little misleading, that opening the top line about what's in this report. Now, of course, we read the report, and that's at least I think where the other questions come into play. That all said,
I have a question.
Okay, can I just finish real quick, Dr. Davis? That all said, I do think it's important that we take a pause relative to the established protocols around moving forward with projects, as have been outlined by the mayor's office. Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I just had a basic routine question. Were any of the commissioners briefed on this item prior to the meeting?
Yes, we briefed the board report to President Good. I don't remember if Commissioner Garcia was there also. Typically, the two we brief. I wasn't sure exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So this one went through the regular briefing process
Right.
the department did. Okay.
Right.
Thank you for that.
So, thank you, Dr. Davis. So, I'm going to move that we do take Commissioner Close's recommendation and continue this for 3 weeks. Do I have any objections from the rest of the board?
I just have a quick question. Is there a time urgency or some that if we stall it for 3 weeks, this might impact the process, Wing? Is there anything like that?
Well, I mean, like anything else, we would like to go through the process as quick as we can. And we've been working with the country club on this particular funding agreement. It took a long time to negotiate the agreement with Water and Power involved. I mean, it took like 2 years to do that. Oh. And they've been coming to us almost every week, finding out where we are, and they're anxious to do this work right away. So I would say yes, there is some time-sensitive item to this. I mean, yeah, but 3 weeks. I mean, that's what you want. I mean, that's what we're going to tell the country club, that is can delay for approval.
Yeah, and I suspect Commissioner or Vice President Garcia's point is time sensitivity relative to a sort of deadline, not
right.
deal of the parties. So let's just
exactly. Thank you, President. I was thinking more either project impact or funding impact. Not so much, I thank you.
Yeah, okay. And for future reference, for everybody, all the bureaus on here, I'm going to go ahead and extrapolate from Vice President Garcia's question. If we ask if something has a time-sensitive date, time-sensitive is about a date. Time-sensitive is not about the enthusiasm with which the parties hope to employ. So moving forward, we'll just make that, we'll stipulate to that, okay?
Okay.
All right. Dr. Campos, you there?
Absolutely, Mr. President. 3 weeks from today would be Friday, October 15, 2021.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's do that. We will continue the item to Friday, October 15th. Mr. Tam, thank you. Definitely recognize that there's been a lot of work into this. If you've been negotiating with DWP for 2 weeks or for 2 years, then 3 weeks will be a hiccup in that, flip in that timeline. And I have no doubt we get to this project, and it's exciting, but there are processes that we need to get through, and I think clarity on this will serve everyone. Thank you, Mr. Tam. Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Thank you, colleagues, and we'll continue to October, whatever it was, 15? Yes, October 15th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Tam. Have a good day. And have a good
Okay.
week.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right, colleagues. Let's go to, we're going to hold on item 2 and go to item number 3. Item number 3, contract renewal, landscape maintenance of median islands at specific locations in East Valley. Recommending the board, 1, exercise the city's first and second year option to renew the subject contract with Sandy Group, DBA BMC Landscapes for $485,937.71 and $500,532.66 respectively. 2, instruct the executive officer of the board to immediately advise BMC to submit their bonds and insurance documents within 5 working days after the date of notification of award of this contract by the board. And 3, instruct the executive officer of the board to immediately advise BMC that work on this project must start within 5 working days from the date of issuance of the notice to proceed. I think Mr. Benuelos and Ms. Beal are here with us on this item. Good morning to both of you. Please proceed.
Good morning.
Hector, we can't hear you very well.
Try taking off the headphones from your computer.
Looks to me like his thing is muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Start all over. Good morning, everybody. President Good, commissioners. My name is Hector Banuelos. I'm with Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. What we have before us is a request for the city to exercise year 1 option of a annual contract up to 3 years. I just want to clarify something. We initially requested the board approve our ability to renew for 2 years. However, for both option years. However, we since thought it out, and similar to the last proceedings, we want to request that the board allow just for the 1 year for this contract. This is a landscape maintenance contract for the East Valley region, the city of Los Angeles. That will provide maintenance for a little over 2.5 million square feet of improved landscape medians throughout the city in the East Valley region. Back in June of last year, the board approved the contract with the Sandy Group, with DBA doing business as the BMC, but they were declared the lowest bidder of this contract. The contractor, the bid was advertised with the minimum subcontract minimum of 4%. The contractor pledged and achieved 4.51% with an other business enterprise, OBE, for this year, for this contract, and it pledged to do the same for this coming year of the second year of this contract. The Office of Contract Compliance reviewed all documents submitted by the contractor, determined that there was compliance with all the the business improvement outreach or business inclusion program, and the minimum subcontract minimum was met, and the contractor is in compliance with their mandatory requirements. The work is being performed at an acceptable level, and if approved, the contract shall not exceed $485,937.71. Therefore, the streets LA asked that the board allow the city to exercise its one-year option for this upcoming fiscal year. That concludes my presentation, and I'm here to address any questions the board and public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. Colleagues, let's open it up. President Pro Tem Davis.
No questions for me on this particular item.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Colosa.
Sorry, just having a hard time going off mute. I don't have any questions on this item. Thank you for the amendment, Mr. Benuelos. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Buñuelos. I don't have any questions either, President Good.
Thank you. And Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. Thanks for clearing things up, Mr. Banuelos.
Thank you. So, me either. I feel like we've had this conversation last week.
I'll move the item.
Okay, now are you going to move as amended to?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Campos.
Yes.
Oh, that was
Yes, Mr. President, I can hear you. So the motion by Commissioner Villegas is to adopt the report as amended to amend recommendation number 1 to exercise the city's first year option only. So we will strike out the second year option from recommendation number 1, and we would also strike out the second year cost, the $500,532.66 will be deleted as well.
perfect. All right, I will second. Any concerns or objections? Colosa, Davis, or Garcia?
No objections from me.
All right. Hearing none, then the item as amended is adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. Thank you, Ms. Veal. Y'all have great weekends.
Thank you, everybody.
Commissioners.
Okay. That brings us to item number 4. Item number 4 is a personal services contract, pre-qualified, on-call environmental documentation consultants and environmental specialty studies consultants. Recommending the board, and thank you so much, Mr. Mundy and Ms. Martin for this one. 1, approve and forward this report with transmittals to the mayor requesting that he approve and authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the personal services contracts between the City of Los Angeles and the 11 pre-qualified on-call environmental documentation consultants and the 10 PQOC environmental specialty studies consultants. The consultants will provide as-needed services for various public works projects, and 2, request that the board randomly select the names of the PQOC consultants to create the initial PQOC environmental documentation consultants list and the initial PQOC environmental specialty studies consultants list for use in future assignments of work. The 11 PQOC environmental documentation consultants are AECOM Technical Services, Inc., CDM Smith, Inc., DUDEC, Environmental Science Associates, ICF Jones and Stokes, Inc., LSA Associates, Inc., Parsons Transportation Group, Inc., SOMAS, Rincon Consultants, Inc., SWCA Environmental Consultants, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. The 10 PQOC Environmental Specialty Studies Consultants are AECOM Technical Services, Inc., Aspen Environmental Group, DUDEC, Environmental Science Associates, GPA Consulting, Historic Resources Group, LLC, LSA Associates, Inc., Rincon Consultants, Inc., Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., SWCA Environmental Consultants. Mr. Mundy and Ms. Martin are with us here today. Good morning, y'all, and please proceed.
Good morning. I'm Norman Mundy. I'm an Environmental Supervisor 2 with the Environmental Management Group of the Bureau of Engineering. And as President Good so thoroughly described, we're here today to ask for authorization to execute new personal services contracts for pre-qualified on-call consultant services for public works projects that come through the Bureau of Engineering. And we use two different on-call lists. The first list we call our environmental documentation list, and that's a broad umbrella of services that includes preparation of documents to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act. So that's the environmental documentation list. And on our new list, on our new documentation list, there are 11 firms. The second list we have is called our Environmental Specialty Studies list, and this is for services that are focused on cultural and historic resources. And that kind of work requires professional qualifications that are not available within Bureau of Engineering. And on this list, we have 10 consulting firms, as President Good noted. The term of these contracts is for 5 years. And it's important to note that there's no money being authorized, no expenditure of funds being authorized at this point. Once the lists are established, we will issue tasks to the various firms to perform specific task orders. And at that time, the funding for the work will be identified and provided through the regular NTP process. And then I'd just like to say that the Bureau of Engineering is looking forward to having these new contracts in place. It'll give us a much larger pool of consultants from which to select when we do request proposals on these various tasks. And I think in the long run, that will give us better proposals that provide better value to the city. So we're looking forward to having these contracts in place. And then secondly, we would, as President Good noted, we would like to establish the order of the lists also today. So I'm available to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Mr. Mundy, just a clarifying question. These folks currently do not, well, I know like AECOM and some do have other type of projects, but currently nobody has this type of project yet, right? We're just about to establish the list today.
Exactly. We're just about to establish the list today, and then once those lists are in place and executed and all the signatures are there, then at that point the Bureau of Engineering will proceed with issuing task orders to these, or request for proposals actually, to these firms for particular specific jobs.
Okay.
So yes, so the list is being established today, and then going into the future, we'll be using that list to secure these services.
Got it.
If I may, Commissioner,
sure.
I just wanted to clarify, we do have an expiring on-call list, and that on-call list currently has 3 full services for environmental documentation, and we have 4 consultants on the specialty list currently. That's the one that's expiring at the end of the month.
Okay, so you guys increased the list of some sub-consultants, right?
Yes, that was the major objective. One of the major objectives in this process is that we do want to have a more robust list of consultants from which to select, and I think we've accomplished that in this case.
I would agree with you too. I definitely see much more different names and just from every different type of like MBE, WE, so forth. So congratulations, you guys did a good job in promoting this type of work. So I imagine we're gonna do like pull the names out of a bag type of deal today.
I think something like that. I think
Okay.
Dr. Campos
We'll wait for that.
will perform that magic.
Perfect. All right, that's all for me, President Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis.
Yeah, I just had a brief question. The duration of the list, is it a 10-year period, a 5-year period, or what's the duration of this proposed list?
The term of the contract will be 5 years.
5-year. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. Just wanted a little bit more background as you're getting ready to do these pre-qualified lists. You just mentioned really quickly the CEQA compliance that engineering needs for creating this list. On the environmental documentation consultants, do you have a list of projects that are going to be going through, or is this just because it's going to be expiring this month? What is is there a lot of work that's going to be had? Do you have other projects that are going to be on queue? Other than this expiring at the end of the month, I just want to know the quantity of the amount of work that's going to be entailed, and also not just CEQA compliance, because there must be other type of work that these consultants can do, or is it only related to CEQA compliance?
Yeah, sure. As Maria Martin mentioned, our contracts will be expiring, so it's important that we get these new contracts in place. At this point, we don't know the specific projects that will be awarded under these new contracts. We anticipate that there will be a fair amount of work. We've used our consultants extensively over the past few years under the existing contracts, which are expiring. And so we anticipate that demand for consultant services will continue into the future. So while we can't identify specific particular projects, looking into the future, we have no doubt that there will be a considerable amount of work for which we need these kinds of services. And with respect to the environmental documentation list, which is the one through which we obtain services to provide environmental documentation under CEQA, you're correct in that is not the only type of services we have under that contract. That is probably the most common service provided under the environmental documentation contract. But there's also other types of services that we need, including compliance with the NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act. And there are various, sometimes we need reports on specific subject areas, specific environmental impact areas, such as noise, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, land use, and those kinds of things. So there are other services in addition to CEQA and NEPA for that environmental documentation list. And then similarly for the specialty studies contract, that one is more limited to issues relating to cultural and historical issues. And as I said, those type of reports, preparing those kind of reports requires very specific professional qualification.
If I may, Commissioner Villegas, in addition to, just to expand a little bit, all of the projects within the Bureau of Engineering, all of our CIP requires environmental documentation and environmental clearance. Obviously, some of them are maintenance, and so some of them are categorically exempt or statutorily exempt. However, every single project that the Bureau of Engineering has in its CIP requires a review and documentation. In addition to the Bureau of Engineering, we also support other bureaus, such as the Bureau of Street Lighting, Streets LA, sanitation sometimes, Rec and Parks, General Services Department, and a number of other departments, including the homeless program as well. Some of them which are part of our CIP, some of them which are not. As such, this list is critical to us because, as Mr. Mundy mentioned, there are areas that are outside of our expertise. A traffic consultant is necessary, traffic engineer, noise expert, a biological expert, in addition to the various other permits and laws that Mr. Norman mentioned. We also have the Clean Water Act, Section 404, 401, 408. So we need to obtain those types of permits for projects that may potentially impact waters of the U.S. We also oversee the coastal development permits that are under the purview of the city engineer, and as such, sometimes we need hydrology, water quality, etc., for Clean Water Act and coastal development projects as well. So it's a very, very broad bench.
I appreciate that. Normally, everybody always claims CEQA, so I appreciate that you gave us a broad scope of that. You know, some of us like, you know, just a little bit of information. Some of us like a lot more information, and I'm one of those that likes just, you know, to know, you know, what the breadth is of the work that these, you know, coveted 11 pre-qualified environmental documentation consultants will be doing. So I appreciate that. Thank you for, you know, for clarifying and just giving me a little bit more context. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Colosa.
Great, thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Mundy and Ms. Martine. I think they did a great job explaining the need for this list, given that the existing one is expanding, and I do want to commend all their hard work in more than doubling the existing list of consultants that we have and really building out our bench. As you heard, the Bureau of Engineering supports so many projects, not just within our department, but really citywide. So a lot of projects get to benefit and use this bench of consultants. And as you can see, from CEQA to NEPA, there's a lot of documentation and environmental work to do for each and every single project. And for Commissioner Villegas, that was a really great question. One project that Streets LA is utilizing for this list is actually the Sidewalk and Transit Amenities Program. So they're also using this list as an example, so our STAP program. But I don't have anything else to add. And actually, the one other thing I will note is that this new list, BOE was able to get more consultants as well that are local business enterprises as well as women-owned enterprises, if you look on the list. So I thought that was so positive that they're going to be part of our bench. And in the board report on page 5, there's also a nice graph where you can see the total number of employees in each firm as well as the number of employees who are LA residents, which is always really helpful information, I think, for us on the board in terms of understanding the reinvestment back into jobs in the town. So I just wanted to note that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. I think everything's been covered. I actually don't have questions. I do understand from Dr. Campos that we do have mayoral approval. Dr. Campos, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mr. President. Thank you, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Just for the record, we did receive the Executive Directive 3 approval from the mayor this morning. We will enter it into the record and we will note it for this item. So just wanted to inform the board that we do have approval from the mayor, and that was just received moments ago.
Which means with the approval of this item, they can move forward, correct?
Once your board adopts this item, yes, we can move forward ASAP.
That makes Mr. Mundy and Ms. Martine happy. So with that, do I have a motion to move the item forward?
So move.
Hold on. Don't we have to establish the list?
Oh, well, yes, but do we do the?
You should approve the contract.
Okay.
You should have. Yeah, there you go.
And then
okay, got it.
Pick the names. Yeah.
I'll second.
But thank you for flagging, Vice President Garcia. Thank you for your second, Commissioner Colosa. Any concerns or objections, Villegas or Garcia? Okay. Hearing none, the contracts, the item is approved and adopted forthwith. Now, Dr. Campos, let's, how do we get this done? Are you coming over here?
I am coming to your office with the mask, and if you give me 30 seconds, I will be.
Cool. We'll give you 37 seconds or more.
Thank you, Mr. President. For now, the Conference Executive Officer, we will go ahead and start to do the drawings. We're going to go ahead and do the first drawing for the 11 environmental documentation consultants. Again, the first drawing is for the 11 environmental documentation consultants. We are being assisted here by our wonderful assistant, Cindy Bassett, who will go ahead and pick up the names. We do have all names in an envelope, and we will randomly select those individuals. Cindy, if you can go ahead and this one? This one? Mr. President, I'll let you do the honors.
All right. First up, ICF Jones and Stokes, Inc.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Second up, Somas. Third, CDM Smith, Inc. Fourth, Dudek. Fifth, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. Sixth, LSA Associates, Inc. Seven, Parsons Transportation Group, Inc. Eight, SWCA Environmental Consultants. What about eight? Are we at eight now?
You're at 9.
Oh, nine, Rincon Consultants, Inc. Ten, AECOM Technical Services, Inc. And 11, Environmental Science Associates.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Cindy, for assisting us. So again, the order for the first on-call list, again, for the environmental documentation consultants is as follows. I'll use the short acronym. Ranking 1, ICF. Ranking 2, SOMAS. Ranking 3, CDM, Smith. Ranking 4, DUDEC. Number 5, Wood Environmental. Number 6, LSA Associates. Number 7, Parsons. Number 8, SWCA. Number 9, Rincon. Number 10, ACOM. And number 11, Environmental Science Associates. Mr. President, we will now go ahead and establish the random order for the next list. Again, the list is for the Environmental Specialty Studies Consultant. There are 10 entities for this drawing, and we'll go ahead and start the drawing for the second drawing.
Aspen Environmental Group. Second, LSA Associates, Inc. Third, Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. Fourth, Environmental Science Associates. Five, AECOM Technical Services, Inc. Six, GPA Consulting. Seven, Rincon Consultants, Inc. Eight, Historic Resources Group, LLC. Nine, SWCA Environmental Consultants. 10, Dudek. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Cindy, for your assistance. Very efficient here. So the final order for the environmental specialty studies consultant is as follows. Short names, ranking number 1, Aspen, number 2, LSA, number 3, Stantec, number 4, Environmental Science Associates, number 5, ACOM, number 6, GPA, number 7, Rincon, number 8, Historic Resource Group, number 9, SWCA, and number 10, UDEC. Mr. President, thank you for your assistance. Ms. Bassett, thank you for your assistance. And that concludes the random orders for item number 4. And as mentioned before, the mayor's office the mayor has approved this item for executive session, and we'll note that for the record.
Perfect. And do we need a motion to approve the randomized list, or is that handled by the approval of the contract?
That is handled by the approval of the contract, and we will establish the list as drawn today.
Perfect. All right. Mr. Mundy, Ms. Martine, please go forth.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Y'all have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you.
You too.
All right, colleagues. Let's take a 5-minute recess. We will return at 11:39.
Righty. Thank you.
All right, we're back. Dr. Campos, can you please reestablish quorum for us, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, reestablishing quorum. It is 11:44 a.m. President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. All right, folks, let's quickly go to item number 5. Item number 5 is an authority for expenditure with Southern California Gas Company. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $1,02,500 to pay for natural gas usage for building heating, boilers, and Hyperion Bioenergy facility operations at Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant and transmission fees from Southern California Gas Company. Mr. Murillo, are you here on this item?
Yes. Good morning, President Good.
Morning.
Board members, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. I can.
All right. Thank you. Yes. So my name is Octavio Murillo from Hyperion Water Reclamation Plan, and I'm here with this authority for expenditure, and requesting is for encumbrance of funds to pay for natural gas usage for building heating, boilers, and the Hyperion Bioenergy Facility operations at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. The plant pays for natural gas usage in its operations and facilities and must also pay Southern California Gas a transmission fee for use and access to the utility infrastructure. This authority is requested for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And just a little bit of a background. So there we have two facilities, two buildings at Hyperion that are where we have employees that, that just use, heating in general, for water, temperature. We also have Hyperion process boilers that, when in use, they provide steam for process of Class A biosolids and our digesters. When they are not in use, the bioenergy facility uses natural gas to provide 100% of the electrical power to Hyperion and 100% of the steam demand to the boilers. So you can say that the bioenergy facility and the Hyperion boilers work hand in hand when one or the other is inoperable. So those are the three main sources of our natural gas consumption, or I would say the main sources of our natural gas consumption. And well, it just varies on a day-by-day basis how much natural gas we use, depending on our needs, the weather, temperature. When temperatures dip, of course, it gets colder. And that thus not only do our employees, need warmer temperature, but also our our digesters would request a lot more steam, demanding a lot more natural gas. And so this AFP is for a request of, as mentioned, $2,500 for usage of SoCalGas transmission line. And any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Murillo. Commissioner Calosa, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Murillo, and looking sharp today. So you have a full suit on. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Davis.
No questions for me. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. Appreciate your report.
Thank you. And then Vice President Garcia.
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. I appreciate your report, and yes, agree with my colleague, Commissioner Calosa, looking sharp today. Very good.
Thank you very much.
And I think that's why we didn't ask you questions. So just saying.
Thank you. I'll take the compliment.
Very good. All right. I don't have any questions either. It's pretty cut and dry. Thank you, Sharp Dressed Man. I will
appreciate it.
Approve the AFB. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections or concerns? Calosa, Garcia, or Villegas? All right. Hearing none. Item 5 is adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you very much, Mr. Murillo.
Thank you. Have a good day, y'all.
You too. Did you say y'all?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
It's contagious, President. It's contagious.
That's right. That'll be even better than the suit, man.
Let me put on my boots.
I think Octavio's officially our favorite.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and go to item 6. Item 6 is our status update on major upcoming street improvement projects, Bureau of Street Services. Who's with us for this presentation today? Hey, Mr. Becerra. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you, and how's everybody doing?
Good. He's also wearing a suit, everybody. So just.
I don't know. So I'm gonna wait. I'll wait till the end for all the compliments.
Good morning, man. Go ahead.
Get started. Again, good morning, President Good, Commissioners, Bureau Representative, City Attorney, and Executive Officer, Dr. Campos. My name is Antonio Becerra Jr., Superintendent of the Street Renewal Division of Streets LA. The information being provided is to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact of the community as well as delays. For additional information or concerns, you can contact our coordinating section for the Streets Renewal Division at 213-847-3200. The following major street projects are scheduled in the Metro resurfacing regions during the week of September 26, 2021 through October 2nd, 2021. Saturday, September 25th, 2021, and Sunday, September 26, 2021. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will pave Adams Boulevard between La Brea Avenue to Fairfax Avenue in CD10, West Adams Neighborhood Council. Funding is Pavement Preservation Program, or PPP. There are no major street projects scheduled in the Valley Resurfacing region. Additionally, we would like to provide you an update on our 21-22 Pavement Preservation Program. During the week of September 26, 2021 through October 2nd, 2021, the Metro and Valley Resurfacing regions will complete 19 projects for a total of 16.64 lane miles. The press releases were distributed and notifications have been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with the council offices to assist with the outreach to stakeholders and have coordinated with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control assistance. This information is also available on our Streets LA website, streetsla.lacity.org, located at the Resurfacing Open Projects icon. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Any questions, colleagues? President Pro Tem Davis?
No questions for me. Thank you so much, Superintendent, for the report. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Vice President Garcia?
No questions from me either, but I like the suit. I like the color. So there you go. Keep on coming out with that suit.
Thank you.
Everybody's going to start wearing them. Commissioner Coloso?
No questions for me. Thank you for your report. I agree with Vice President Garcia. You always look sharp though, Mr. Becerra, so that's why we don't say it to you because you always have a suit on. But you do have a new Zoom background, and that looks very nice as well.
That's right.
Thank you on both. Thank you very much.
That's right. Commissioner Villegas?
No questions. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. And I don't say y'all, but I like Mr. Good, President Good's coffee mug. We'll go there.
There you go, brother. There you go. Thank y'all.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
You too, man. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Colleagues, that brings us to items 2 and 7, which we'll take together. We'll start off with item 2 and then segue into item 7. And the indomitable Rachel Malrich is with us for both. We will jump right in. Good afternoon. No, good morning still, Ms. Malrich.
Great. And do we need to read item 2 into the record before I do a presentation, or are we good?
Yeah, let me go ahead and read it into the record, and then we'll go.
Here I am. Good morning. Good afternoon. A border right there for everybody.
Ms. Malrich wearing a suit too, by the way. All right. Item 2. Sole source contract, city plants, urban forest, management planning activities, recommending the board subject to the mayor's approval. 1, concur pursuant to the Los Angeles Charter Code, section 1022, with the personnel department's finding that city employees do not have the expertise and or existing work assignments exceed staff's availability to perform the full scope of services. Therefore, it is more feasible to contract out urban forest management planning, community engagement, tree canopy equity activities. 2, find pursuant to LACC section 371E that it is in the city's best interest to sole source this contract for urban forest management planning activities, as it is for the performance of specialized services for a limited term contract such that competitive bidding would be impractical. 3, approving 1-year sole source contract for an amount not to exceed $264,000 between the City of Los Angeles and community partners for city plants for urban forest management planning activities in substantial form, subject to the approval of the city attorney. And 4, authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute a 1-year sole source contract with community partners for city plants. Now, Ms. Mallard, if you could present on the item, and however you want to work that in with 7, or we can sort of like bifurcate. We'll leave to you.
And Mr. President, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, we do have one member from the general public on item number 2, and then we have 2 members on item 7. So if you want to consider 2 first, we can take the comments on 2, make the presentation, your board can make an adoption, then we can go on to 7, take those comments. Or if you prefer, we can read both items into the record, take all comments, and then your board can deliberate on 2 and 7.
Let's go with the latter. I will also note that mayoral ED3 approval on item number 2 has been provided today, so that's not that's obviously important for Ms. Mallard and everyone to be aware of. So let's take all 3 comments. Then Ms. Mallard, you'll present on item 2, and then we can deliberate and then segue into item 7.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. For the record, item number 7 is an oral report from the Office of Forest Management Status Update Report. We will go ahead and take the callers at this time. Caller ending in 631, caller ending in 631. If you can please press *6 to unmute your microphone. The Board of Public Works is now considering items 2 and 7. You will have up to 4 minutes to speak on these items. Please go ahead.
This is Joanne D'Antonio, CFAC. Item 2. When I was a member of the DUDEC report working group to prepare to get an urban forestry management plan, it was thought there would be a pathway to access new scientific study to inform a visionary approach to our urban forestry to help us realize the ecosystem services we need and that our trees can provide. This fresh methodology has not really been happening. When consultants are utilized, they are told to think small, as evidenced in the draft tree species report that is designed for worst-case situations, not a vision of how our right-of-way trees could serve us better. Now we are at a new gateway, the Urban Forestry Management Plan. According to this agenda item, we are giving this project to tree planting partners for a program to plant trees and do public webinars. Where is the outside high-level look at what we could do better? Where is the newfound care, ideas, or knowledge for our existing trees? Are our trees in such bad shape that we are writing them off to continue to decline? We need a plan informed by the best science to find a better way to manage and preserve the big trees of our city. The canopy will not come back even with planting because most of these large species trees are not on the draft list that dictates what we should plant. City Plants is doing some good things like cultivating native saplings, but they have low-level interns who do not have the expertise to tackle the situation with our existing trees. Our cities have relationships with the top urban forestry science. Other cities have relationships with top urban forestry scientists at universities. We have a big tree problem according to the lowest marks we got on the self-evaluation done by the DUDEC working group. We have to do more than prune and plant. This proposed UFMP is not just it is not the professional approach we envisioned. CFAC was not consulted at all during taking this route. Beyond tree planting, we need to address finding new ways to preserve our existing canopy, including hardscape alterations. We also need to find the biodiversity directive, follow the biodiversity directive passed by City Council last month. Item 7, I would like to know how our urban forest will comply with the City Council directive to follow the recommendations of the LA San City Biodiversity Report that designates Los Angeles as a biodiversity hotspot. Public trees should be an opportunity to focus to improve biodiversity. To comply, we need to find ways to plant a very high percentage of native trees in our public right-of-way and in our parks. This is not happening now. Earlier this year, I, with my neighborhood council, had to put pressure on Rec and Parks to change their totally non-native planting plan to get 6 native coast live oak trees out of 26 new trees in Valley Glen Park. I have heard the city plants interns speak against planting natives as street trees in the city forest officers' lunch and learn. Yet the scientists from our university tell us to plant the natives for our diminishing bird population and other wildlife. If there are already thousands of native black walnut street trees, surely there is a way to plant more and have them thrive. Can we not be cemented in our old ways? Do we need better nursery access? Do we need to enlarge parkways when we create road diets? When tree guarantee fees were planted in my council district last spring, I had to get involved to prevent a monoculture planting plan of all the same tree species in a location, no diversity. Also, smaller trees were going to be planted on 7-foot parkways where there were no power lines. This was visible on Google Maps without visiting the site. Why were no tall trees chosen? Conversations with urban forestry to improve, to help get the diversity and larger trees, but the nursery did not have the 3 California native bay trees we tried to plant. Hector agreed with me. So
please wrap up.
I think we need to improve the city draft tree species list and the UFMP.
We'll move on to the next caller. Caller ending in 682. Caller ending in 682. If you can please press *6 to unmute your microphone. You have you indicated on item number 7. You have 2 minutes to speak on item number 7.
Okay, I had also raised my hand. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Williams, we are on item number 2 and 7. You indicated that you wanted to speak on item number 7.
Yes.
Please go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council and Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community. I had also raised my hand for item number 6, but it's long gone. So, item number 7. Where are the neighborhood councils in this whole, quote, update for what our trees are going to be by almost 100 different areas? So, get in with the neighborhood councils. Mentioning the council districts is kind of a non-starter because most of the council districts don't cooperate with the neighborhood councils these days, and it's a lost cause. So coordinate with Dunn. At least they know the addresses, mailing, and such for all planting to be done in the city of Los Angeles and the 99 neighborhood councils. You might actually ask them because I have good oaks, good walnuts, some bay, and lots of toyon and elderberry, and I have to trim back the sage every 2 to 3 months because it thrives so well in El Sereno. So I don't believe there is a problem with planting natives other than they grow slow. So I say I might not see them, but plant them now, give them adequate water, and maybe some infiltration galleries for the trees so that the roots get lower down. And I always point out that even the poor ficus across the street from the city hall have not raised the sidewalks on the LA County areas. So please, please, please notify the neighborhood councils as to when you're even considering planting trees in our council district areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Dr. Campos?
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the speakers for items 2 and 7.
All right. I would like for the public record just to acknowledge, and please disabuse me of this if any of my colleagues disagree, but that we are deeply appreciative of all interns who work with the Department of Public Works and their important contributions to city plants and every other bureau and office and entity within the Department of Public Works. So with that, and I see Ms. O'Leary has joined us as well. Ms. Malerich, why don't you proceed regarding item 2?
Great, thank you. Now, good afternoon, President Good and Commissioners. What we have before us with item 2 is a request to approve a 1-year sole source contract with Community Partners for City Plants. I believe the board is familiar with the longstanding partnership and work with the organization City Plants. And for clarification, City Plants is a project of Community Partners. That is, Community Partners is their fiscal agent, which is why they're listed as the entity we'd have a contract with. City Plants does significant work for the city, coordinating tree planting projects and the work of our nonprofit partners for the LADWP Energy Efficiency Tree Planting Program, as well as developing outreach materials for that program. However, in recent years, they have continued to grow as a key partner for our overall urban forest management development and continued exploration of practices and outreach strategies for urban forestry in Los Angeles. Notably, City Plants received funds from CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service to commission the first step or DUDEC report, which was a needs assessment done over a 10-month period, facilitated by City Plants with support from that consultant, outlining the next steps towards development of the city's UFMP. We've made significant progress since that report was released in December of 2018, and we know we have a ways to go. So in the fiscal year budget for 2020-2021 and 2021-2022, the Mayor's Office included funding in that budget under general city purposes for City Plants to continue to support initiatives to address tree canopy inequity within the City of LA, as well as support me in moving us forward towards that urban forest management plan. This contract is not intended to be the full UFMP. This reflects some projects that are helping us move towards that full UFMP, but they are not being selected as a consultant to write the city's UFMP at this point in time. We'll be combining the resources from both of those fiscal years to address the scope that's outlined in the contract that was attached with this board report. This will be a 1-year contract, not to exceed $264,000. And the included projects, which many of which I've spoken about during other updates and would be happy to discuss further at board, and as part of the reason Rachel is here in case you do have questions on some of the specifics, include the urban forestry financing study, looking at identifying the financing levels needed to support a robust urban forest in Los Angeles and the funding mechanisms that we might access or utilize to get there. Integration of our Treekeeper 8 software. As you know, the Urban Forestry Division and Recreation and Parks are using Treekeeper 8 for the inventory and as our work management system for our trees. And we want to ensure that that inventory stays up to date with the work being done by our nonprofit partners. That is, when they plant a tree, we want that to be reflected in the inventory so UFD knows in real time, Urban Forestry Division knows in real time that those trees are in the ground and those sites are no longer vacancies. City Plants has been working hard at facilitating the development of an additional version of Treekeeper 8 that will meet the needs of those nonprofit partners and their work, as well as that of UFD. And this software will eventually have a bridge to that city system so that we will be able to update both systems in terms of vacancies and trees planted. And we really are relying on City Plants to facilitate that project as well as train the partners in and do some of the quality control to ensure the data going into the city system reflects the needs of urban forestry division, is accurate, etc. That's one of the projects. They will be continuing to facilitate the LA Urban Center, which is the research hub of the U.S. Forest Service here in Los Angeles, which helps us with critical research and fellowships to scholars on an annual basis. They'll be facilitating the LA Urban Forest Equity Collective, which I've formerly spoken about as the Equity Visiting Scholar Project, which is, again, a continued look at improving tree canopy equity across the city of Los Angeles, understanding where the opportunities lie, what additional infrastructure changes may be needed to get to our equity goals when it comes to the urban forest. And then we have a couple items that are related to outreach. Growing Vibrant LA Communities is a webinar series they've been doing for over a year now. And we are asking that they continue that and also ask that they provide simultaneous translation in English and Spanish to those events. Facilitation of our Arbor Day events. They've we would like them to continue helping us facilitate great parties to celebrate Arbor Day to help us maintain our Tree City USA status. And then there's the Tree Ambassador Program, which again, I think I've mentioned in previous and deserves a full conversation in and of itself. A wonderful program training Angelinos to do outreach around the urban forest in some of our most heat impacted neighborhoods. I'm almost done with the projects that are being covered here. Just two more. One is the Commonwealth Nursery, which again, I believe you are familiar. They applied for an LA 2050 grant for the redevelopment of a Commonwealth Nursery pilot. This funding in this specific project will help them work on the Green Workforce Development Program proposal that we'd like to develop for that site so that we have more training available to Angelinos in areas related to nursery in particular, those practices and other urban forestry elements, and then general support for the UFMP. They provide really constant communication for our nonprofit partners when it comes to policy and on-the-ground communication. They obviously conducted that First Steps project, and we want to make sure that we're gathering the experience, expertise that they learned through that process, and make sure that those thoughts and processes are included in the full UFMP, the Urban Forest Management Plan for the city. So with that really quick overview of some very complex and wonderful projects, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Mallich. All right, President Pro Tem Davis, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Mr. President. Rachel, thank you so much for your report. And I wanted to ask you about the Tree Keep 8 software. Is that what it's called? So this software is an assessment of every tree that we have planted, and it keeps a record of that for us. Is that correct?
It is a workforce management system where the current tree inventory that's being conducted for the city, that's where the trees are being logged, and then Urban Forestry Division is going into the work records for those different plants. Every time that they trim a tree, remove a tree, they go in and they update the record for the tree.
Oh, I see. So that's the maintenance on the tree and a record of that, of what we've done, and I guess what we haven't done is documented. Kind of like what we do in patient care for those in the healthcare area in terms of continuity of care. There is a machine that will allow physicians to know, what has been done with a patient. So I love that system there. The other thing is you mentioned in this consultant that will be working with you, tree canopy equity. What is the vision for that? And just can you briefly tell me what our plan is for the tree equity canopy program?
Absolutely. The one that's listed in this project is one of a couple that is going on. Obviously, we have our directive from the Mayor and the Green New Deal to increase tree canopy by 50% in areas of greatest need by 2028. The Equity Collective specifically is going to take the work that was done by the visiting scholar last year. We have the guidebook that was developed. I believe I shared that in my last update. I can, again, send to you all those two reports that were developed by that consultant. This next phase of the work will be further drilling down, not just broadly, what the conditions are like, but we'll be going through the process of further delineating how do we know when a community may need more than just planting the existing sites, and within that, how do we know whether private property, public right-of-way space, or potentially new park open space is what's going to get us to the mayor's goal of the 50% increase. And we'll be looking specifically at 2 neighborhoods. We'll be going through a process to select 2 neighborhoods with some methodology and criteria that the consultant will be helping us, the consultant team will be helping us with, and then working on developing some plans. Obviously, we'll be including groups like the Streets Working Group with it that has the city departments that are looking at that space and including them in the process. I've already briefed them on the previous work of the project, but we'll be continuing to get more specific. What do we need to do to make sure that every community has access to trees and the health benefits they provide consistently? And if we don't have space, what do we need to do next? That's really the question that we're answering. And Rachel, please feel free if I've left out something critical on that one.
So our basic goal is to identify an area or neighborhood and to implement a tree planting program in that neighborhood, I guess, as a kind of like pilot project.
Well, yes, more so we're really trying to, again, answer that question of in Los Angeles and the different neighborhoods that we have with the existing infrastructure that is there, knowing that every community needs trees. what are the potential policy or infrastructure changes we're going to need to make in order to ensure that everybody has access to trees. This project, again, we'll be taking those 2 pilot areas over the course of the full project is a 2-year. We're supporting some of the first year work. The first year we'll be doing some of that identification of the neighborhoods that we'll be looking at and some of fleshing out some of the details of what happens when we plant existing locations with small, medium, and large trees. How does that impact the canopy? Is it enough? If it isn't enough, what do we need to look at? What are those different, and what are the challenges of each of those elements? Adding new park open space, not easy. Getting people to plant on their private property, sometimes not easy. And then in the public right-of-way, we know that's a really contested space that has very narrow spaces in some of our neighborhoods. Is that something we need to look at more deeply and say in this community, in order to make it walkable, we may need to look at some different street design, which obviously I wouldn't be recommending in a silo, but would be introducing that conversation to, we've identified an area where there's need that we can't address with current existing conditions. Let's brainstorm together, again, with the help of this outside consultant as well, to hone in on those areas where we have to do something different. Not just, oh, it would be nice if every street was wider and all these things, but where are the areas where we cannot avoid the conversation of a different appearance potentially of the public right-of-way as one of the options.
Okay, so my final inquiry, you mentioned something about outreach. However, I'm interested in terms of the Office of Forestry. How are we interacting with our construction contractor community as it relates to the trees that come? Every meeting we have some comments about our ability to make decisions that are the most lenient and most efficient decisions in terms of saving trees. How is the Office of Forestry involved in the process of assessing trees as we move forward in terms of doing our construction work?
Well, this is great because there will be one last thing for me to share with you in my overall update. So my role, again, Urban Forestry Division are our experts. They go out in the field and inspect locations and talk with developers and construction consultants that are working on projects. They're in the field and talking with them. The role that I've been playing is working on facilitating the conversation primarily at this point with city staff, making sure that we have conversations about how do we understand that a tree is on the site or adjacent to the site or part of the project sooner? What are the methods and procedures? It's really in the weeds, but we're looking at how do we make sure we have a really appropriate way to ask that information of developers soon in the process so that we can flag it. How do we make sure that the type of information that maybe project planners in planning have is helpful to them in their decision-making process from our urban forestry experts, and how do we make that as easy as possible with the staff restrictions that we have at this point in time? How do we improve our processes and communication? And I'm speaking as one face of a team that's working on this, but those are the conversations that we're having is how do we better make this process one that shows that we prioritize trees, but does not impede the process or expect everyone to become a tree expert. I get to be a tree expert, but not every city staff member needs to become an arborist. But how can we provide them with the right information at the right time to be able to evaluate those projects and give feedback to the construction community?
Well, I think that that's going to be important work. Time and again, we're hearing that there are some circumstances where, in fact, by working together with more people that have the expertise, that we might be able to preserve more canopy. So not having done it, it's kind of hard to know if it's true that we can really achieve more results that we'd like to see. So I'm very glad to know that you're moving in that direction. And I look forward to hearing more about your work. Thank you.
Commissioner Calosa.
Great. Thank you, President Good. Nice to see both Rachels here. Rachel squared. It's always good when you're here talking about trees and all the amazing work that you all do together. I think you can hear from my colleagues that we're really supportive of your work, Ms. Mallarich, and of course you, Ms. O'Leary, and really the partnership with City Plants has really been to help augment the work of both UFD and our city forest officer, because right now, Ms. Mallard, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're still a team of one, is that correct?
Yes, fingers crossed that by the end of the year we have one more member of the office, but currently I'm still a party of one, so.
Well, hopefully that will change soon, but I think this report highlights the major challenges that we still have to address, that you're fully aware of, Ms. O'Leary is fully aware of, the board is fully aware of, but yet even in the 2 years since the creation of your position, you've managed to do so much to really move the ball forward. And so just commend you for your leadership on that. The few follow-up questions that I have, I'll start with kind of the contract terms. And just curious why this was only for a 1-year contract with City Plants. And I ask that because I know that the work outlined here is unfortunately they're not 1-year projects, right? We're gonna need a lot of help for quite some time to help augment all these projects and all this work that you're moving, Ms. Malrich. So just wanted to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the projects that are outlined here, again, what we've included in the scope of work in the contract are items that we do believe City Plants is on track to complete by the end of June of next year, so within the 1-year time frame. You're 100% correct. There is substantial work to be done and work that could be done beyond that. I included a 1 year, again, based on an understanding that this is work that we believe could be done in that time frame and the funding that's available. This is the funding that we know that we have and that we know that they can use at this point in time to work on these critical projects. And what happens in the next budget cycle, I guess, remains to be seen. But this is what we have, and we include it in the contract for that link for that reason.
Got it. Thank you for reminding us of the fun budgetary restrictions that you're faced with. I think it's good to share that, though. That's what I was wondering with the 1 year, but it's good to raise it to everyone's awareness on the board so we can all help where possible, be your advocates and allies to make sure that the work continues beyond a year, because we know there's so much to do. The second question I had is one that I know Dr. Williams asked about, and thank you, Dr. Williams, and to everyone who dialed in to give us your feedback and comment on this, about how DUN is involved. I know some of the ways in which you all work with DUN, and I know you've repeated it and shared it before, but it might be helpful since the question was posed, how that department or Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is involved in these various projects, if at all, and how you engage with them, if you can just please share.
Absolutely, and some of the work that's being done is being done by the external relations teams with Streets LA, who has also a small team that is able to do some outreach and engagement. When we do events like Growing Vibrant LA Communities and others, we definitely include DUN in distributing that information to the neighborhood councils, and then the neighborhood councils is a great vehicle to get the information out to further into the public on the types of educational and in-person, hopefully in the future, events that we have. So we use them to, again, communicate with the neighborhood councils. I know that Streets LA, when a neighborhood council has had their inventory completed, for example, or have a critical project, they are able to attend a meeting and provide a report on the completion of the inventory in that area. And ultimately, my vision for this office is that in the future we have some additional capacity to do more direct and frequent outreach with active neighborhood councils around tree issues, whether it be because they have a greening committee that is very interested in trees, or it's an area where we know that trees are a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be added to. But that's the current practice, is to include DUN so that they can inform the neighborhood councils of our work, and as well as Streets LA being able to provide presentations related to the trees in those neighborhood councils when requested for, again, the inventory project specifically.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And it comes up all the time in our public comment, and so I hate to keep asking about it, but I will say that it seems like I know on your end you're doing what you need to get the information over to Dunn, but it does seem like there's a communication gap somewhere, and at least just from what we hear in public comment. So I wonder if that's an area of improvement where maybe your team can work with maybe specifically with the Streets LA External Affairs team to see if it sounds like there's some improvement there that we can do. If I could just request that we look into that a little bit, please. And I know Vice President Garcia and I have also certainly tried as well, reaching out to Dunn to clarify those communications, only because we hear it so much and we don't want to keep hearing it and not fixing the problems that we hear about. So, but that seems like low-hanging fruit. And then the last question that I'll ask is for this USDA item that you talked about for the LA Urban Center. Are we actually receiving federal funds for that project, or we're just working with them?
I may ask Rachel to make sure that we get this really accurate. My understanding is that the LA Urban Center, we did not have a research hub here in Los Angeles for the U.S. Forest Service. There's one in Davis. There wasn't one in Southern California. And part of the last administration was looking to bring a research hub here to LA so that we would have that presence of the Forest Service here. And ultimately, that connection with the Forest Service is what led to funding for things like the DUDEC project to look at the First Steps report. And they provide regular ongoing support with a local social scientist that's looking at our urban forestry issues, as well as some other resources. It is, again, Rachel, please correct me if I'm wrong, it is a grant from the Forest Service for this to continue that we have to provide a 50-50 match for. They provide funding, and there's the staff member that's represented, but City Plants has been required to show proof of a 50-50 match for the grant for that Forest Service LA Urban Research Center to exist.
I can chime in a little bit on that. Thanks so much, Rachel, but that's exactly correct. City Plants has played the role of essentially being the grant administrator. Community partners and City Plants hold the grant agreement with the Forest Service and have for the last 6 or 7 years, to my knowledge. And this year, the LA Urban Center is a research destination hub that is also used as kind of the hub for supporting and injecting all of Rachel's projects and the goals of the region in Los Angeles with research expertise, scientific expertise, and connectivity, I would say, with other regional partners and practitioners and experts. So we're really lucky to have the Forest Service have such a strong presence in LA, and it's played an absolutely critical role in pushing urban forestry forward in the city of Los Angeles for the past few years.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Just one last request for me too, and I think it's great that we're starting off with a lot of the events in Spanish and English. Definitely including Spanish is really critical. That covers such a wide swath of our communities. If I can also just make sure that it's not just bilingual, it's multilingual for our materials, especially because we are receiving federal dollars on this, that there's actually some requirements that we need to meet as it relates to some of the languages we serve. I know this is such a small budget, right, for adding in those kinds of services to some of the outreach materials. But I'm happy to follow up with you afterward to see how I can be helpful in making sure that we can help, and I can help from my end about trying to get some materials translated beyond English and Spanish. So it's the last thing I wanted to add, but great work on this. Amazing scope. I look forward to seeing the fruits of your labor, and congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. I agree with my colleague, Commissioner Calosa, on just the scope of work. It's just you're doing so much with 264,000 that I really like how you're able to kind of see the big picture on this, Rachel, both Rachels actually. So thank you for that. And I don't have any questions. I was briefed by Rachel Maurich this week, and I asked tons of questions there. But I just want to say that City Plants is a very important partner for us in the city. around the work that we do with trees. I know that there's just like 3 different type of entities of, folks within the city that really work around the trees and just keeping, the tree canopy and just all of that. And so I really commend City Plants for being our outside partner, but also very inside partner at the same time. It's like a very it's a very close relationship that we have, this department with City Plants. So the sole source is definitely well justified for that. City Plants for many years have really worked inside City Hall, and then also is able to work with different types of communities outside. And so we appreciate that. And, just this weekend, we're going to have a tree planting in CD 14 that Rachel Leary has been helping us really put together. And I don't think we would have been able to be successful in putting together two tree planting events this season at the rate we did, if we didn't have the flexibility and the nimbleness that City Plants is able to do, not only with community but also with the city. So I really appreciate that. And I just want to say one last thing on one of your items of scope of work. I believe it's your number 8, the Commonwealth Nursery pilot. That is such a great idea. I just have to say that first and foremost. And second of all, I know you're in Griffith Park. Is this the same area as sanitation? They have also a space in Griffith Park where they do urban gardening classes and that type of workshops. Is that near or close, or is it in the same area, or is it the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I'm happy to chime in on that. It's a different space. This is the historic Commonwealth Nursery that at one point in the 70s and before the 70s was a place where about 1 to 2 million plants were grown for municipal projects in the city of Los Angeles. It's run by the Department of Water and Power, and it's an incredible space. And run by the Department of Recreation and Parks, forgive me. They've been an incredibly generous partner, letting City Plants use the space to grow trees for free tree distributions for private property throughout the city. I don't interact with LA Sanitation folks when we're on site, but that's been, in addition to our offices in City Hall, the Griffith Park Commonwealth Nursery has historically been where City Plants' main operations are run out of with the LA Conservation Corps, and we're super thrilled to be working to grow trees, hopefully eventually from locally sourced seed in the city of Los Angeles. And yeah, it's a real honor to work on that project with so many lovely partners, and just definitely want to give a shout out to Rec and Parks for being such great partners in that journey.
Great. Maybe, Rachel, maybe there's a connection to be done with sanitation, just so that you're familiar with their site and they're familiar with your site. And as we're moving along, we're putting together urban gardening classes and workshops with sanitation. It might be a nice synergy around that and complement the work that you both are doing. So, just more to come on that.
Sounds great. Thank you for that.
Other than that, I don't have any questions. I'm really happy to see where we're at this time. I'm just, a little bummed that it's a 1-year contract, and, but obviously we'll work on that in this coming year. Other than that, I'm all good with this. Thank you, President Good.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you for that, President Good. So I appreciate your report, Rachel. You did an excellent job. It's evident just through your report and also just with the additional information that Rachel O'Leary provides, that both of you just have a shared value system for the work that you're doing, and you're completely ingrained in it. It's just evident in the way that you speak and present, and I just wanted to comment on that because you really like the subject matter, and I appreciate that. And somebody has a job. It's not. This isn't just a job for you. That's what I'm trying to say. That it's definitely a good shared value system that you really want to promulgate for the city of Los Angeles, and it's evident in your work. I wanted to start out with that. It's also big coup for the mayor's budget to be able to provide this one-time funding. I understand, city plants will do, additional fundraising at some point so that they can, augment and have more of a budget and flexibility on the things that you'll be able to do within city plants. But I know that this is just a one-time allocation of funds so that we can place it to community partners as our fiscal agent. I don't have any questions, but I just did want to highlight just just two programs, Rachel Malarich, that you mentioned, and they're just worth repeating. The Tree Keeper 8 inventory is really a unique kind of like a what do they call it? It's GIS, but it's also just an inventory of our trees that we're going to be planting or that we're going to be giving away. Anytime we do tree distribution, those trees are also accounted for in this system. And I think that is important for us just to be able to understand so that we can get into the 90,000 trees that the mayor is, advocating for each year. And then just the next one that we're looking into is just the financing study. Obviously, that's, I love when we're able to figure out a mechanism for getting more funding for trees. So I'm really looking forward to participating in that effort and seeing what our consultants are going to be able to do. And I'm glad that some of the funding that we're getting this time around, a portion of it will be going towards, supportive of this program. No other comments or concerns here. Just really like the work that we have before us, and really commend you, Rachel, both of you, just for the amount of work that you all do, always with a big smile on your face and just beautiful attitudes. I really like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. So I don't really have any questions either. I do, I'll just echo my colleagues. I'm very appreciative of City Plant's work, have been for pretty much every day I've been in the building. And this is definitely an ambitious work plan. And it is reflective of the import and the complexity of the work that the City Plants and Rachel and UFD and the community and stakeholders do and will be doing together in partnership with other bureaus and other departments in the city. So while it is daunting, it is all necessary. And so I'm very happy to see us grinding forward for another year. So with that, I'll take a motion, and thank you both, Ms. Malarich and Ms. O'Leary, for being here and continuing to do the superhero work. I'll take a motion to move the item forward.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll take 2 seconds, one from Vice President Garcia and one from President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Caloza and I get to just say no objections unless there are objections, Commissioner Caloza. So hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. And again, it has already been approved through the ED3 process by the mayor's office. So we'll be able to move quite forthwith, actually. And then with that, and I'm assuming Ms. O'Leary, you're certainly welcome to stay for this, we'll segue into item 7, which is a general report, some of which will have been covered, but Ms. Malarich, go ahead and jump in. And Dr. Campos, you got our vote and disposition there, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, Ms. Malarich, let's move to item number 7. Item number 7 is the Office of Forest Management Status Update, continued from actually Friday, September 17, 2021. Please proceed.
Thank you, President Good. Again, this will be fairly brief, and I appreciate your willingness to continue this item to today. I knew that we were hoping to have the City Plants item, and you've gotten to hear quite an earful today. And I think it will be a good use of our time, hopefully, that we've already had such a robust discussion, and thank you for your support. So the main things that remain, a brief overview of the 4 things I just want to touch on. I want to say a couple quick thank yous. I want to give an update, just a little addendum to the equity projects update I already gave, and then talk about tree preservation and street tree list. I'll start with the thank yous. I just want to acknowledge that as I am an office of one, and you just heard a fairly complex contract go through, I just wanted to share my appreciation for the members of the board office that have been so helpful. I came in as a tree expert and not a city expert, and so I've been having quite the learning curve on the city processes, and so just wanted to say a thank you to our executive officer, Fernando Campos, Norman Tanada, our city attorney, Ted Jordan, Maritza Cruz, Mike Yu, and TJ Knight, all for really, behind the scenes in the board offices, but really pertinent to the work of my office moving forward. Their support has been really critical, and wanted to share that with the board on the record. Secondly, on the equity side, you heard a little bit about the next phase for our Visiting Scholar project that we're now referring to as the Urban Forest Equity Collective. I will be, on the City Plans website, there is an infographic that summarizes the Visiting Scholar project that the Climate Corps Action Fellow Kimberly Guo was able to finish before she moved on to her next assignment, that does a really good job of summarizing the 2 reports put together by Vivek Chanda. So I'll be sharing that link with the commissioners, but any member of the public can access that on the City Plants website. Looking into the Visiting Scholar project, there's an infographic, and it's also on the Board of Public Works website. We have a link to that Urban Forest Equity Project infographic that takes those 2 long reports, summarizes them into some of the key points. The next component, one of the other equity projects we have happening, is our partnership with University of Southern California. In April of this past year, and I shared with you all at my last update, they finished a segment looking at the community of Lincoln Heights. I just want to update the board and let you know that they were able to secure funding for a second phase of their work with us, looking at trees and their ability to capture particulate matter and being able to know what species do better in terms of air quality, looking at some of our high-need neighborhoods and helping us think through how we get to, again, the mayor's goal for 50% canopy increase, where those projects might be prioritized. So in addition to the 2 pilot projects that will be done with the Equity Collective, they're looking at the communities around the University Park campus and Boyle Heights, in addition to the work they've done in Lincoln Heights thus far. So early stages now, but just wanted to flag for you that thankfully that partnership is able to continue with a really robust scholarly cross-disciplinary team, as well as even a larger team of students, I believe, this fall, helping us from the spatial sciences, landscape architecture, and earth sciences entities at USC, as well as their community engagement arm for the university, supporting us and making sure we do that robust engagement throughout the process of the project. So that's really exciting to share, and we actually have a number of city departments that are joining the project. The first phase, it was largely Streets LA and myself. This next phase, we're looking to incorporate some other critical departments to provide their feedback as we work on developing those potential solutions and research elements for those neighborhoods. So that's an update on our equity work, just another excited update to share that project is moving forward. Preservation, I already really covered this in the earlier answering the question for President Pro Tem Davis, but again, on tree preservation, I'm working to coordinate with the departments, work on methodologies and methods for identifying trees early in the process for our different projects across the city, and then improving documents and procedures to ensure clear communication across departments so that people have the information they need to help support tree preservation whenever possible on projects. And that is ongoing work, and I hope that we're able to provide some more substantive updates at some point in the near future, but we're definitely in the details right now, making sure we get things right. Which brings me to the one update that I haven't provided, and that is on the street tree list. So I'm not going to go into a lot of depth, but I want to just let you know where we are in the process of looking at the draft tree species list for the public right-of-way. This is not a park tree list, it's not a median tree list, it's not for your yard. We're talking about streets that go in between the curb and the sidewalk in the city of LA. We worked, thankfully, Streets LA had a toss with Tetra Tech, Bob Perry is a contractor who is a consultant on that project, who is an expert on Southern California landscape plants, who supported us with developing some really clear criteria and a draft list for that public right-of-way space. On July 26th, we opened a public comment period for the public to say what they think about that list. We know that trees are a bit of a lightning rod. People have strong feelings about the trees that go in their neighborhoods, and so as part of the Growing Vibrant LA Communities event on biodiversity that day, we let people know where they could find the draft list and a public comment form for providing feedback on the criteria, the list, whether there were trees that they wish they saw more of, or what trees they wished weren't on the list and why. And that public comment period went from that day on July 26th, was followed by a presentation to CFAC the following week. We provided them that list that day, so they had some time to look at it. As we know, we frequently hear from them. Some additional time to be able to process things really helps provide for that really robust conversation. Bob Perry came to their meeting the first week of August and did a presentation, answered questions, and then we left the public comment form open through September 15th. So last week, on September 15th, we closed the form and we had a total of 332 responses, as well as myself receiving several letters from either content experts or community groups that wanted to say a little bit more than they could on the form, which I obviously welcome. And so now I'm going to be going through the process of reviewing that public comment and synthesizing that information and working with Urban Forestry Division to discuss what we heard in that public comment period before coming to you all with a full report on the work of the consultant, what the public comment was, and how we plan to incorporate it into the final list that will be coming before you for your review and questions. And that is the extent of my report to you all today, just an update on that process. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Malrich. Colleagues, and thank you for the report, and we certainly kept you busy. Commissioner Closer, you want to, any questions or comments?
No questions from me. Great job, Ms. Malrich, and thank you for your update as always. I look forward to seeing the rest of the reports coming our way, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Closer. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. Just quick question, Rachel, by the way, you did a good job on your report. I really appreciate how you're able to just get to all the points right away and, you know, in a very efficient way. My question to you is, you have a public comment time period. How can people do public comment to you or for you, or is it a specific meeting and then people can attend? Just wasn't clear on that.
Yes, so we actually, so a lot of the people that are interested in urban forestry in Los Angeles tend to attend the Growing Vibrant LA Communities. City Plants and Streets LA co-hosts that event, and it has a really good turnout. I think usually we have I think that day we had around 300 participants. Obviously in the scope of the whole city, that's not a big number, but it is a pretty good turnout for a public event. And so that's when we opened the public comment period. We shared the list, a link to the list and a link to the public comment form, which my understanding was not required, but obviously we really want to hear feedback from the public on what they think about the street tree list before we go through the process of finalizing it and updating it for the first time in a couple decades. So we had that open. We again repeated kind of that invite at CFAC and through social media and through many of our partners posting on social media, and offered people the opportunity to comment through September 15th. I do have some content experts that are still sending me some letters straggling in, and obviously I'm still going to be very happy to see information from people that have things to say, but we wanted to close the comment form so that we could start to provide that feedback to myself and Urban Forestry Division to discuss and be able to move forward with finalizing an updated list. As that was something that was in process when I came to the city. The mayor's office had worked very hard with the departments and stakeholders to come to a draft point, but then realized we're going to hire a city forest officer. We don't want to release this without giving them a chance to weigh in. And I had the opportunity to, again, work with a content expert to further refine it. Anyways, more than you asked for, but
that was
public comment period.
That was a perfect answer. Thank you so much. I don't have any other more questions. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis?
No, she, I think, has answered my question in the last session. And so, Rachel, thank you so much for this report. And we look forward to our continued communication. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. As always, Rachel, you just do a great job, and more information is good. Thanks for all the contacts.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Less question, more observation. Look forward to, I think it was bullet point number 3, whichever. Continuing the work of figuring out how we can really best align our efforts as a Department of Public Works and as the keepers and the protectors and the stewards of our urban forest with cross-departmental objectives and really right-sizing that process so that you know that decisions around trees aren't landing here so late in the process. So, and I know Ms. Mallard, you're working very hard on that. So thank you very much. And as are you, Commissioner Villegas, whose leadership I'd also like to acknowledge in this meeting around these issues. I always have the Villegas arrow in the quiver to deal with tree issues and line up with Ms. Mallard and Ms. O'Leary. So thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. And I get to say that. Thank you so much for the report, and keep grinding away. Really appreciate everything, all of y'all's incredible work. Okay. Thank you. And thank you, by the way, for taking all the shots you take, because you do, and I know that. So we know that. So on behalf of Public Works in the city, so thank you. All right, Dr. Campos, does that clear the decks?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so with that, colleagues, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.